This week's Parsha is Parshas Kisava. Parshas Kisava has the following episode. The Jewish people are commanded to split down the middle. Half of the people are to stand on one mountain, Har Grizim, the mountain of Grizim, and the other half are supposed to stand on Har Evel. In the middle, between the two mountains, stood the Kohanim and the Leviim, who said specific statements. They said, "Cursed is the person who does this act," and 11 times. "Cursed is the person who does this act. Cursed is the person who does this act." And then again, exactly the opposite. "Blessed is the person who does this. Blessed is the person who does this." So, focusing on those acts which are specifically itemized as those which the Jewish people are cursing, or those people who engage in those specific acts should be cursed. Just to emphasize, these alone were enumerated, which we will discuss, and none others, just 11. And the Jewish people themselves are to affirm the statement of the Kohanim and the Leviim that these people who engage in these very specific acts should be cursed. So what is special about these 11 acts? Why are these 11 acts that God commands that the Jewish people themselves have to state and affirm that this is something that a person should be cursed because of engaging in this egregious act? So one of the 11 is the following: Make re'ehu b'seiser, a person who strikes his fellow in seclusion, no one around, in private, in someone's house, in a dark alley, no one knows about it, sharpshooter, whatever you can think of. Someone who strikes his fellow in seclusion. No one knows about it. No one knows about it. What's so bad? I mean, obviously striking a person is bad, but why is it so bad if it's done in seclusion? So, if you look through the 11 curses, the 11 cursed acts that are enumerated, actually all of them are in seclusion. They all are types of things that are obviously discouraged, but more than that, the thing that they share, the characteristic that they share, is that they're all done where no one knows. Just to give you a few examples, it says that cursed is the person who shall make a idol or image, V'som b'seiser, and he hides it. Specifically says in the verse, this is the first one of the curses. Then it says a person who moves the boundary of his field to gain more land. No one knows about it. He doesn't sit there and punch and kick his neighbor and push him off his land. He just moved along the rock that used to signify where his land ended and his neighbor's land started. Goes on to say other ones. Person who twists the judgment of a widow or orphan. No one knows that he's twisting it. No one knows what the law is. The judge just sits there and says it, and everybody just listens. Another one. It says a person who takes sheikhad, a person who takes bribery. Obviously, he's not going to publicize he did bribery. But these are the things that are specifically enumerated as those things that are cursed. And the Jewish people themselves had to affirm that. Why? Now, if you think about it, it's interesting because as a nation, if we see someone else acting in an egregious manner, in a prohibited manner, so we have the obligation to go over to them and say, stop it. We have to go and say to them, stop it, as long as it'll be effective. We have to tell them, this is not the way a Jewish person should act. God commanded us not to do this. When a person does it, where no one knows about it, then there's no possibility of reprimand from his fellow. From the victim, obviously, it won't be effective. And maybe the victim doesn't even know about it, considering lashon hara, negative speech. Sometimes the victim won't even know about it. And that is why, specifically by these prohibited acts, and the manner of the act, the manner of the sin, it had to be specifically affirmed and stated by the Jewish people, that they themselves, as a nation, are accepting that even in seclusion, they are cursing their fellow man, their fellow Jew, that you should be cursed if you act in this way. So that's one thing. And second of all, the second thing is that they should not only curse and take it as an obligation on the nation, that not just the person themselves should be responsible, that the people are themselves in seclusion for each person are accepting this responsibility. It's that doing something that you know is wrong, only because you know that no one else knows about it, that is egregious. That there's something worse about that than doing something publicly. At least someone who does it in public has the courage to show who he really is. A person who does it alone, where no one sees, you have to question whether or not his practice of Judaism, whether his Yiddishkeit in practice, is that just a cultural thing? Is that something that he really believes? Or is that just something he acts? He just does. It's habit. Therefore, Arur, cursed is the person who does these despicable acts, and despite how despicable they are, he does them not despite, but he does these despicable acts specifically in seclusion where no one sees him. Just a quick question on this week's parsha. At the end of this week's parsha, we have a very interesting set of verses, and it starts off by saying, that God has not given to you the heart to understand and the eyes to see what God has done for you. This is at the conclusion of Moshe's life, and now the Jewish people are entering the land of Israel. And God tells the Jewish people, or Moshe tells the Jewish people, depending on how you understand the verses, that everything that happened until now, all the miracles in Egypt, everything that happened in the desert, about all the miracles, the clouds of glory, and the protection from their enemies in a miraculous way, all of that didn't understand. You did not understand until this day. What happened today? What changed? What was so monumental about whatever day this was, that all of a sudden the Jewish people understood something changed? They understood the reason, they understood the purpose, they understood the plan. What happened? What occurred today that made this abrupt about face? Have a great Shabbos.